All right, Biggest Little Radio, thanks for tuning in. Good afternoon. Hopefully you guys are enjoying your day today. In downtown Fernley is where we're broadcasting live. Jay Fierce Rodriguez here, and we have the Fernley News Network to sponsor this segment that is being put on with the Fernley Fair Share Committee. We'd like to welcome Kelly Brye to the studio. Hello, Kelly. Welcome.
Thank you, Jay. It's good to be here, man. Beautiful studio.
Thank you. Well, we're glad to have you. We're here to discuss a city advisory question in relation to pursue legislation in regards to raising some potential taxes, but not necessarily something that's going to be effective immediately. So can you tell us what this is all about real quick?
You want a history on C-Tax, or do you want to talk about specifically the ballot measure right now?
Let's talk about this specifically the ballot measure, and then you can give us information in the background as to why we're doing this as far as the C-Tax goes. Sure.
Well, unfortunately, the way it's written, and you and I both have a copy here in front of us, and our listeners can obviously see it online, or they had their sample ballot in the mail. But it's an advisory question that will appear on the ballot, or is on the ballot right now, asking Fernley voters, would you approve the city of Fernley exploring some sort of additional tax that currently they're not receiving so that we can improve our parks, improve our roads, and whatnot? I would venture to guess that most voters, and not just because we're in northern Nevada, aren't going to get excited and yippee-skippy to vote yes for more taxes. But at this point, this is just an advisory question asking the voters, and I don't know if it's written as cleanly or clearly as it could be. You and I, neither one of us are politicians, but they legally have to word things in a certain way. But at the end of the day, this question just says, would you be willing for the city of Fernley to explore possible new measures of taxation to benefit or supplement the current general budget that would help us improve our roads, improve our parks, perhaps help us establish a law enforcement agency that's managed or administered by the city of Fernley? Yes or no?
Okay, and we're doing this because this is where you bring in the C-Tax information. Why are we doing this?
Well, you're going to have to cut me off because I get awful passionate about this one, and obviously we don't have time for long stories.
Oh no, we've got what, 25 minutes? We got 25 minutes, so we got plenty of time.
So I'm very proud as a resident and business owner, both here within the city of Fernley, to have been one of the founding members of the Fernley Fair Share Committee. And I think most people, I hope we've done a good enough job through Facebook. Prior to Biggest Little Radio, perhaps our only means of media here in Fernley, to establish a community-based group of citizens, business leaders, nonprofit organizational leaders, just concerned citizens in general, who understand that Fernley, absolutely, the city of Fernley, that is, our government, gets absolutely screwed on C-Tax. And C-Tax, for those that may not know what it is, the C stands for consolidated, and consolidated means there's six distinct, individual, unique taxes that are consolidated into one chunk of money. And I'll read those off real quick because most people pay them and know exactly what they are. Liquor tax, every time you buy liquor, beer, wine, hard liquors. Mm-hmm. Tobacco tax or cigarette tax, as you will. Real estate property transfer tax. That's not property tax, but it's the one-time tax you pay when you purchase a piece of real property. There's the DMV fees that you pay when you renew your license plates over in Fallon Arena or wherever you go do that at. There's a little tax on there. You'll see it says Lyon County. That's number 4. The 5th one is your basic sales tax, and the 6th one is a supplemental sales tax. We don't really see that as consumers. When we go to Walmart or a restaurant or Lowe's, we see at the bottom of our receipt the amount of sales tax we're paying as consumers. Right. Those 6 taxes all roll up, no matter where you're at in the state of Nevada, and they go to the state of Nevada, to the Department of Taxation. Then the Department of Taxation redistributes it back each month throughout a 12-month calendar year to first the counties. There's 17 counties in the state, and then to cities that are incorporated, and then to some special general, they call them general districts. And some of those, for example, are the Verdi Television District or the Churchill County Weed Abatement District. So those are 3 agencies, counties, then cities, then these special improvement districts. Okay. This process, this consolidated tax process, was established in 1997 statewide. Well, Fernley was an incorporated city in 1997. As we all know, we were a town. Right. So we didn't qualify for the tax anyway when it was established. But in 2001... some founding fathers of our city, through voter participation, there was a majority that said, yes, let's get incorporated, and we became incorporated. So then we applied for C-Tax, and there's some gossip in town, and if you talk to some of the powers that be at Lyon County, that a gentleman or two may have said that it was okay, we don't need our C-Tax share, and wrote it off. I haven't seen that in writing, but I've heard that happened. My point of contention would be whether it happened or not, or those guys said yes, we don't need it, or no, yes we do, or no we don't, whatever.
Right.
The point is, it's 2016 now. It's 15 years later, and the city operates on a $6 to $7 million budget. Well, that sounds like a lot of money if we had it in our own personal bank accounts.
Right.
But to operate the city of Fernley, that is just pocket change. Conversely, our founding fathers said, rather than take our city taxpayer money and incorporate, with all the cost involved of incorporating a law enforcement agency, we don't have the funds, we're a brand new city. Let's go ahead and contract with Lyon County. They've been doing a great job for us throughout the history that we've been a town. Let's give them the money that they deserve to continue to serve us. We'll develop and maintain a strong relationship with the sheriff's office, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Well, times have changed. The recession hit. We've got a new water sewer treatment plant, which is a totally other different issue, but they did that with foresight of all the growth that had been occurring and was going to continue to grow prior to the recession. And so now here we sit. We don't have a law enforcement agency. We have fought and fought and fought to get our share of C-Tax. And if I could tell a quick little story that kind of sums it up, Don Weir, we all know Don Weir from television commercials. Don and Mo, they own Reno Dodge.
Yes.
And then they graciously came and opened up the dealership here in Fernley. I think we're all proud and excited to have our very first, brand new car automobile dealership here. They came to one of our Chamber of Commerce meetings to make the big announcement. Hey, we're coming to town. We've chosen Fernley. And the greatest thing Don Weir said, because he wasn't aware, bless his heart, he says, think of all the sales tax dollars that are going to be generated for your city and what you'll be able to do with that money every time we sell a vehicle. Well, there was an uproar at Chamber in a fun way, but because we, as a Chamber, have been educated on this C-Tax issue and said, hey, whoa. Every time you sell a car, every time Walmart sells candy or cigarettes, every time Lowe's sells a bunch of stuff, anytime any retailer or any storefront here that qualifies or has to pay sales tax collects money from the customer, it doesn't come to Fernley. It goes to Nevada State, then it goes back to Lyon County, and I've got some of those stats we can share later. But it doesn't come to Fernley. Fernley, 2 years ago, got $133,000. That's it. $133,000 in C-Tax revenues for a full 12-month year.
So that's what we received here in the city, but what was actually dispersed as far as a grand total?
That's a very interesting thought. So one of the things that the Nevada Department of Taxation tells us, which is why we're doing this advisory question, it's a great leading question, Jay. Fantastic. We don't know. Nevada Department of Taxation will not tell us. Our estimates are that we should be receiving back our share, our fair share, should be roughly $5 to $6 million. That would be almost double what the city works with today. And just here's another interesting point. How important is it to other cities of our same size or to Lyon County? Remember, counties get paid first, then cities. Lyon County's general fund, that's how they operate all their different, we all know the different departments of the county, from road maintenance to the sheriff's department and all that.
And Lyon County being, Yerington, Dayton, Fernley.
You got it.
And that's pretty much it, right?
Silver Springs.
Yeah, Silver Springs, okay.
For their 2015, we got their 2015 statistics here. For their 2015 general fund, so the monies that they've collected from all their different revenue sources, taxes, C-Tax was 45%, and is 45% of their annual operating budget, and that amounted to almost $14 million. So, what is C-Tax percentage of Fernley's revenue? It's 0.000001. So it makes it really tough. So when we want to whine and complain, and I'm not saying everything the city does is great. I'm not being paid to represent our city council or our mayor or any of the city staff. But when we as consumers or citizens here in Fernley want to complain a little bit about weeds or how come there's no sidewalks on certain stretches of Main Street or 95 or what have you, it's that they're working with pennies. I mean, there's just no revenue. And conversely, if I can just throw in one more little stat here.
Okay.
When we first established the Fair Share Committee a year ago, we used, and Leroy Goodman, he was prior mayor, prior Lyon County commissioner. He's kind of a old folklore individual. He refers to himself as a dinosaur in a humorous way at our ambassadors meeting.
Yes,
but he's one of our founding fathers. He compared us to the cities of Mesquite and Elko. And the reason is that within 1,000 people, they have almost identical populations, both Mesquite, Nevada, and Elko. In 2013, and I don't have 2014, 2015 numbers on me, but just as a comparison, I'd reference the year that we had 133,000 or received 133,000 in revenue for C-Tax. That same year, Mesquite received 7.3 million in C-Tax, the city of Mesquite, and the city of Elko received 13,521,000. The city of Elko received almost as much as Lyon County did as a whole. So.
Wow.
Their budgets, their annual operating budget. So Elko, their city government, they operate with $24 million of revenue a year. Mesquite operates with $42 million. And then I go back again to Fernley. This year the budget is roughly $6.5 to $6.8 million. It's just it's a sliver of what two other towns. We've all probably been there touring or on vacation, and we love them. There's nothing wrong with Mesquite or Elko at all. It's nothing critical of them. It just is what it is. We incorporated after this C-Tax was established, and there's a lot of powers that be that fight against us, that don't want us to get our fair share, out of fear, I believe, and this is speculation, out of fear that perhaps by Fernley getting their $5 or $6 million, it's got to come from some other cities or counties that would obviously be threatened by that. So we sit here.
Right.
We just sit here.
Yeah, and that's why we continue to see all those weeds out on the streets, and it just doesn't look good for us. So, back to the question in relation to what we're as far as bringing what we're missing from the C-Tax, and as why we brought this advisory question to pursue legislation. Tell us once again, this is why we're doing it, but what is exactly the question that we need voters to vote yes on? Well,
unfortunately, it's another history lesson. The city took the state to court 3 years ago and lost. And basically their fight was, hey, we deserve our fair share of C-Tax. We're going to sue you since we haven't been able to obtain it through other negotiating or diplomatic means, and we lost. So then the city made a decision to take it to the Nevada Supreme Court. That's what a big part of our Fernley Fair Share political activism, I guess, would have been last year, to kind of bring that to as much media and legislative attention as possible. But ultimately, the Supreme Court said nope. And I'm giving you the real simple common man's excuse me, response. They said no. Again, we uphold the district court's ruling. You don't qualify for C-Tax. It is what it is. But they did say that the main reason why we don't qualify in their legal ruling to receive it is that we don't have our own city-funded law enforcement agency. So you go back to the drawing board. I know the city staff, the city manager Daphne Hooper and her team, as well as city council and Mayor Edgington, looked at and explored how many different options are there. Where else can we go now? And they came up with 6 different strategies, and this is one strategy, or the first strategy that they're employing, and that is, if we're going to establish a law enforcement agency so that we can qualify for C-Tax, we're going to need a whole bunch of money. Who knows what it costs? $2 million, $3 million, $4 million for benefits, and you got to have a contract with Yerington Jail because that's where you have to take your whatever arrestees, your criminals.
Yeah.
You got to have the cop cars and all this insurance and benefits and all this other stuff. It's going to cost money. So why don't we take a look at having an additional new tax that can be exclusively dedicated to Fernley? We just went through this little C-Tax lesson. Where's all the money go? It goes up to the top, and then you hope it trickles back down. You get your share. But if we could have our own tax, well, why doesn't the mayor incorporate that, or city council? We don't have that style of government here in Nevada State, so no mayor or no city council can just have a vote and say, hey, we're going to implement a new tax. You have to have a vote of the people to do that. And so we do need some legislative support from our representatives or elected officials. They have told the city and us voters in campaign season right now that if the city of Fernley voters, its citizens, will vote yes in support of exploring a new tax that would be exclusively used or dedicated to Fernley, we'll support you at the upcoming legislative session. So, forward-looking, and let's say on this ballot measure everybody says yes.
Okay.
Then what happens is there's no new tax that happens. Then it goes to the legislative session that's going to happen here in January, February, March, and so forth here in 2017. A bill will be presented. Do we allow Fernley to implement a new tax, to explore a new tax? They'll say yes, hopefully. Then it comes back to the city council and the mayor, and then they implement a committee of different concerned citizens here in town who will present the city council with different ideas. Maybe it's a chunk of sales tax. We increase sales tax a little bit. Perhaps it's a cent or two or three on diesel and fuel. Right now we have all these truckers that go by on I-80, and we love it. They're important to our economy, but we're not getting anything from it in terms of fuel tax, or we're not even getting sales tax when they buy things at Pilot and Love's and Flying J. So we're exploring that. What the city doesn't want to do, I am very confident, is just arbitrarily penalize further the citizens of Fernley by jacking up property tax or coming up with new tax that would specifically penalize the citizens of Fernley. That's not the goal. Maybe it comes in the form of a little increase in room and board tax. So everybody that puts their, we call them heads in beds, the people that stay the night in Fernley at a hotel, maybe we get a few 5 cents or 25 cents or $1 or whatever it is from that every night.
Right.
But if we do that, if we can get a new tax implemented, particularly from tourism, then we can put a little savings account together and, looking forward, perhaps establish our own City of Fernley Police Department. And then we can go to the Nevada Department of Taxation and say, okay, now what's your excuse? We've now met all these requirements, and in the meantime still receive those additional benefits from perhaps any new tourism tax strategies or whatever. But that's looking way down the road, because the voters have to vote on that too the next election. So this is just saying, will you please give permission
for us to pursue legislation?
Yeah, that's it.
And then, of course, have you heard? I mean, if this gets brought up to legislation and we pass it with all the yeses that we need in order to make this a reality, how much support do we know we're going to get enough support from legislation just off of some of our local representatives, or
the local representatives right now? That'd be State Senator Settlemeyer, who represents us, and Assemblywoman Dr. Robin Titus. And I haven't heard this from Settlemeyer personally in any event. But I do know that I've heard personally, and as have other people here in Fernley, that Robin Titus is totally committed to supporting us if the voters say yes. My fear is that the voters say no by a majority here in Fernley, because they haven't listened to this show, because they haven't, we haven't gotten the word out. And then if they say no, perhaps that gives our elected officials the opportunity to say, and I'm not accusing them of doing this, but perhaps they get to say, you know what, we're not going to fight too awful hard for you at the session coming up, because the majority of your voters said they don't want to explore this tax. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't read that way. It reads like, would you be willing to see an increase in taxes? And obviously, nobody's going to vote yes for that.
I think you just answered a question that we have on our website here, BigSodaRadio.com. But the question from Amber says, will this new tax be specifically on fuel? But you just answered that we may be able to. I mean, we want it to come from fuel tax, but there's a possibility of potentially seeing a tax from room and tax board, right? So it's not specifically on fuel, or is it? So
right now there's nothing. To answer Miss Amber's question, thank you for the question, Amber. There's nothing. It's a several-step process. First step is, do the voters say yes or no? Will they support exploring a new tax exclusively for Fernley? Then it goes to the legislative session. They say yes. Let's allow Fernley's government, city council, mayor, to put a committee together and explore them implementing a tax specific to their town, to their city. Then a committee is formed of private citizens that are going to brainstorm. And so what we're all saying at this point, and this is dreamland, to be real honest with you.
Okay.
Will the committee consider exploring, and it'd be people just like us, will you consider exploring perhaps a specific fuel tax, exclusively for Fernley, or perhaps an increase in room and board tax, where that increase goes exclusively to Fernley, or perhaps a little bump in sales tax. Right now, sales tax is 0.7125, I believe, in Lyon County. Maybe we raise it to 0.713 or 0.73 rather, or whatever, and we get a little chunk of sales tax, and it goes exclusively to the city. It doesn't have to go up through all these channels, at the state level, and then back down through all the riffraff.
It's like having us at the bottom with the bag open. We're waiting. Come on, we got to get something here. We're fishing, right?
The thing that we can take comfort in is that the city. This is not a dictatorship. The city and the city mayor, the city council, they can't just blatantly say, we're going to tax you and it's going to be this. This is the new idea we have. We all voted unanimously. Hey, everybody in Fernley, you're getting screwed. This is the new tax. It doesn't work that way.
No.
It has to go through these several steps. And if this thing is 100% successful, I don't think it's even legally possible to see any new tax, whatever new idea we may come up with, whether it's a little bit of fuel, a little bit of room and board, what have you. I don't think that's even legally possible to happen or become active prior to 2018. So we're still we're looking at
we're still looking down the road.
Yeah, and that's if everything goes well and And step by step, we get approval through everything. The first step is this.
This, right here on the ballot.
And I'm nervous
Just
about
say
it.
yes.
I'm nervous.
Well,
quite frankly.
yeah, because you have to read it to understand it. And I know a lot of voters, they just go, okay, I'm going to vote for this person. I don't know who this person is. I don't know about this question. Wait, this may be something related to tax. So I'm going to say no. I don't want new taxes, because you see that, especially on social media. Not everybody's wanting to pay. Anything that has to do with raising taxes. A lot of people I see that comment on Facebook or on social media say no. We don't want any new taxes whatsoever, because I know it's going to come out of my pocket. Well, we're not asking for new taxes right now. We're looking and exploring something that's going to benefit our city here in Fernley. So this is definitely important for our residents and community.
I think, you bet. And we live in a time right now where it seems to me, and this is just a little personal editorial, that people are very anti-politician, anti-government waste, anti-government abuse. We're tired of corruption and backdoor deals. All of us are. And the lower we are on the economic food chain, as human beings, as citizens, the more perhaps resentful and bitter we get at what happens at the top. One of the things I take comfort in as a Fernley person is that, and we'll just use the Fernley Mesquite Elko example again. Those governments are working with between $25 to $42 million a year in revenue. There's all sorts of stuff they can do. There's all sorts of big ball fields and soccer fields, and a lot of people in Fernley that have children are very concerned about the conditions of our park, and can we bring big tournaments here into town and so forth. Then you look at Fernley, basically a $6.5 million general fund, an operating budget per year. Mm-hmm. You can't even embezzle from that. All that money is spoken for with payroll and the fleet of vehicles, city staff. It's really a shoestring budget, and I am so impressed as a Fernley resident and business owner of the job that they do. Do I agree with all their government council decisions all the time? Not necessarily, but I'm definitely confident there's no embezzling. There's not enough money to be corrupt. There's just not enough money in the fund. So I'm super. Which is very true.
Yeah. If you have any questions in relation to the discussion that we're having right now, you are welcome to ask us on our website, biggestautoradio.com. We have a chat box. You can remain anonymous. You can sign up. It's very quick and easy. It's free. Or you can just, again, remain anonymous and then just ask your question. We are live on the website, biggestautoradio.com. Just like Amber, she was asking a couple of questions, which, of course, we just answered. Is this, even if we vote yes, will we see immediate changes or no immediate changes? And we're answering that as no. We're not going to see immediate changes, because it's going to take time, because this has to first receive a yes vote before it can see legislation. Right?
That's correct. I'd like to give a shout out to J-Rod from Fierce Entertainment, Biggest Little Radio. He's got a sample ballot out. Looks like he's gotten extremely educated on all the issues. It's very impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Kelly. And this is why I wanted to bring this to our station and to our community is there's questions here that, I understand based on what I've been experiencing with the Fernley Chamber meetings that we've been having, but as I'm sure the community and residents out there who may not know what this question is all about, and people who are maybe not on Facebook or on social media still don't know what this question is all about. So that's why we want to really iterate on this and get as much information as we possibly can, so there's an understanding as to why we want to vote yes, to at least get it to legislation and see what legislation is going to do and keep our fingers crossed. So that way Kelly and the rest of the Fernley Fair Share Committee and all of us residents are not nervous.
Absolutely.
Great. Okay, so again, if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask us. We have just a few minutes to answer any questions online. You can call us here at the studio, 775-404-1115. Again, that's 775-404-1115. Any other information you can relay while we're waiting to see if anyone's going to call to ask any questions, or hit us up on the chat box?
Well, I think one thing that I just sparked a thought as you were speaking. Advisory questions aren't common during election years. This is a very rare question. It's a rare ballot measure. And so as you're going through your ballot, I guess I'm speaking to the voters, as you go through your ballot, you're not approving a tax. And I guess we keep reiterating and re-emphasizing this fact, but you're not approving a new tax. You're allowing permission for the city government to explore a new tax. And the intent is that we try and find a way to get a little bit of revenue exclusively for the city of Fernley through all the truckers, distribution. This is a huge distribution route, and there is a lot of fuel. I heard a stat actually this morning at a Fernley Builders Association meeting. One of the gas station fuel dealers in town was asked, how much diesel do you sell versus regular gasoline? And for every 1 million gallons of diesel, there's 250,000 gallons of gasoline sold. I would have thought it might have been equal or maybe a little bit more with the automobile gasoline, and it's not even close. There's 4 times more gallons distributed through Fernley at this particular station, and this is one.
Oh, wow.
To every 1 gallon of automobile, personal automobile gasoline. And we don't get anything from that. Anything. So we don't want to gouge people. We know that gas is 29 cents less a gallon, roughly, in Washoe County because they have some fuel tax, fuel indexing revenue generators, I guess they'd call them. So, gas is less expensive here. Would it be okay, though, if maybe Fernley was only 25 cents or 26 cents less? Than Reno? Could we take 2-3 pennies from every gallon of fuel that the truckers and the commuters are using? We don't want to penalize Fernley local people. Unfortunately, if we get our gas here, we'd have to pay 3 cents more. But think of all the commuters and the diesel trucks. I also know that ranchers and farmers are excluded from those diesel taxes. I'm not smart enough to know why, but I think it's cool. So you're not penalizing your local ranchers and farmers. They get exceptions or exclusions for those diesel taxes, but it'd be cool to get a couple pennies off every gallon of diesel and regular gasoline, and see what our city government can do with that.
So if we were to increase the fuel tax, so we wouldn't see a huge difference to where it would scare our local residents or our community into thinking, oh gosh, now I'm going to have to pay more for gas. I already pay less than Reno. Why would I want to pay? It's not going to increase that much, right?
That's a great question you asked, and I think the reason you asked that was you're not under the assumption, but your brain, J-Rod, automatically went to, oh shoot, the government just said this, and now this is what we're going to have to realize or accept. They don't get to just say, hey, it's 10 cents or 20 cents. This is the new law. This is the new rule. Everybody's gas just went up 20 cents. It has to come back to the voters in Nevada. It always has to come back to the voters. So there's no way, this isn't Cuba,
right?
Old Cuba, new Cuba. It isn't Cuba. We have to vote yes. And they're smart. They're going to propose something when the time comes, a year, 2 years down the road, after the committee looks at it, that they know we would vote yes to anyway, or within the majority would vote yes. So they can't be foolish and just throw out arbitrary, outrageous.
But from what I'm hearing, if we did vote yes, after it went through legislation and then we brought the idea of a fuel tax increase and we all vote yes on that increase, we're not looking at a huge increase. We're looking at a very small penny to maybe 3.
You bet. I've heard the mayor sometimes say that, in Dreamland, the mayor may say, what would happen if we just had 1 cent? I've never heard him say 3 cents. That's kind of my number, and I don't know where I came up with that at. I guess I'm dreaming too.
But it's just a rough estimate. It's not.
So if you get 20 gallons of gas in your car and it's 3 cents, 60 cents.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to pay an additional 60 cents? And if you did the mayor's math, it'd be 20 cents. Would you be willing to pay 20 cents more at the pump as a Fernley person every time you fuel up? But think of all the people that don't live here that are getting gas, getting fuel in Fernley. We see it at Pilot, Loves, and there's other stations too. But if we look at Pilot, Loves, Flying J, the Silverado new Chevron station over there across the street from Walmart, those are 4 major volume fuel stations. Aside from the other ones, a lot of us
mostly passerbys.
You bet.
Mostly
they're not the Fernley folks.
Yes. You have a question?
I do. So I know you addressed earlier that one of the problems with the C-tax is that you need a police department. Sorry. You addressed earlier that one of the problems with the C-tax is you need a police department to really be eligible for it. Is that the only thing you need? And is this tax going to go towards that? Or are you going to go to other ventures before you pursue a police department?
You know what? I think that's too forward-looking. This is so undeveloped because we don't have voter approval yet. And because it takes citizen participation and these community teams that will be put together, committees. But I think the main idea and concept would be if we can generate some funds, enough funds, and some of these ideas would do that, to where there'd be a large enough pot of money that we could consider establishing a local police agency. And again, that would have to go to the voters too, believe it or not. The city can't say, okay, we've got all this money.
Let's open up a police
we're
department.
going to have a police department. Even that has to go to the voters. So all these things take a pretty lengthy amount of time, but I do think that is what would happen. I know Fernley. I know you know Fernley. J-Rod, you know Fernley. One thing I know for sure is if we look future forward looking and we develop or establish a bunch of this new revenue and it goes into a pot, and the city said, hey, we had a great idea. We're going to put sidewalks on every square mile of Fernley roads because we just think that's a great idea. We didn't ask you. We're just going to do it. Boy, there'd be an uproar. We're pretty tough, chip on our shoulder, strong people in Fernley. That wouldn't fly. We don't sit down and take a lot of guff in Fernley. That's not our nature. It's not our culture here. So I have very, very much confidence that the people would always be asked. They have to, by law. The people have to speak. They have to vote. But that is definitely something that would be so beneficial to Fernley. We get enough money raised through some of these taxes that passerbys. I love that term. It establishes or incorporates a fund that we can build up, and then we have enough money to throw it to the people. How do you feel about a City of Fernley, exclusive City of Fernley police department? So now we're knocking out crime and relieving some pressure that Lyon County Sheriff has as well.
Right.
Helps us take care of our neighborhoods a little bit better, some of our businesses. And then we get to go to the state and say, hey, what's your excuse now? We've met every qualification. And one of your questions was, would that satisfy it? Absolutely. There would be no other reason why we wouldn't qualify if we established, by their standards, a real, genuine law enforcement agency in town. But that's never going to happen without funds, and it's going to be expensive.
So just to reiterate real quick, the police department, is that the singular holdout for us qualifying for C-Tax, or are there other factors in there as well?
The ruling is several pages, but when you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, that is, I'm not a politician, so I can say this. That's their excuse, and it's on paper. And if we meet that qualification, if we met that, there's four things you have to provide: city parks, Parks and Rec department, a road maintenance department, a law enforcement agency, and fire. And you got to have three of the four. Well, our fire is governed through a separate board, we all know our local fire department. It's North Lyon County Fire Protection District. It's not the City of Fernley Fire. And when that was established years ago, and we're getting off the subject here, the reason they made that choice is there were a few neighborhoods and a few big commercial businesses, including Nevada Cement, that actually didn't fall within the true census boundaries of Fernley. So common sense prevailed, which I'm proud of. And they said, let's have the North Lyon County Fire Protection District so there's no little pockets. Donner Trails, believe it or not, there's a few pockets out there that aren't, for some reason, it's a jagged map, considered inside the City of Fernley. So if we were technically the City of Fernley Fire, there'd be a couple blocks of homes and a big employer and business here that we wouldn't be able to hose off, so to speak, if there were a fire, because they're not in the City of Fernley boundary. So logic prevailed there. So we don't have the City Fire Department, but we are very proud of what they service, and the whole area is taken care of. And then the second one would be the police agency, law enforcement agency. We don't have that, public safety. So we've got the Parks and Rec, and we've got the road or street department. We're missing one of the two other public safety departments, and so the law enforcement would be the one I believe in, and I'm just speculating here, but I'm pretty confident that's the one that we need, and
we'd be able to say, hey, now what?
That's right.
And these other two cities that you mentioned that are getting the millions,
yes,
they have qualified with a 3 and a 4.
You bet. The cities of Mesquite, but that goes back then to this timing issue. So before 1997, all these taxes came in separate envelopes, if you will. I pay sales tax every month as a business, so I got to send my monthly sales tax in, for example. But liquor tax, cigarette tax, real estate, property transfer tax, sales tax, those all got sent in separate envelopes to the state of Nevada's Department of Taxation. Then they had to muffle through and distribute all these 6 different taxes, and on top of all the other taxes that they deal with. So they consolidated in 1997. And to repeat, Fernley didn't become an established or incorporated city until 2001. So
that's why we're kind of being left on the side there. Lori on our BigSodaRadio.com chat page said, Dana mentioned this morning on Facebook that if the fuel index tax passes, then Fernley may not also tax the diesel fuel.
Boy, I was hoping that one wouldn't come up. Great question, Lori. Is it the Lori I think it is?
Most likely, yeah.
Hi, Lori. That is true. So also on this year's ballot is all the rule. I'm going to put this in simple terms, and I may be off on a thing or two, so forgive me. But in short, Clark County and Washoe County have fuel indexing in play right now. That's why their gas is more expensive than in all the rural counties. The rural counties would like more revenue. So this isn't just Lyon County we're talking about. Nye County and Humboldt County and Pershing County and so forth, Lander County. So they've all gotten together and proposed a fuel indexing measure that would do what we had talked about in our discussion about exclusive Fernley taxation. And if that happens, we will see some increases in fuel tax that will benefit both the county, but we will also get a chunk of that. As far as how it's written, we're promised that we will get a little chunk of that. So NDOT will get a share, the counties get a share, and then the cities get a share. And within Lyon County, those two cities are Urington, in terms of incorporated cities that qualify, Urington and Fernley. So we would get a healthy chunk if you vote yes on the fuel indexing tax measure that's in the sample ballot. If that happens, that doesn't cure all of our ills, even remotely. Will it help? You bet, but it also helps everybody else. And that's okay that it helps everybody else. It doesn't help us, though, proportionally fix the major imbalance that we have right now in revenue. So if this passes, from what we understand legislatively, we are not allowed to also then pile on and put our own Fernley-specific fuel tax on there. So then we're looking at room and board tax or
and this is where we could
sales
explore
tax.
other
And
options.
explore, yeah.
Right. This
You
is
got it.
exactly why this
You
question
got it.
is to pursue legislation and then explore options. So then if legislation passes it and says yes, well, then after that we can, all right, let's put our heads together. What can we do? Well, they already did the indexing, the fuel revenue indexing. They voted yes. That's already been established. So tax has already been raised by 3 cents effective January 2017. Well, now what can we do? Well, there's other options that we can discuss that may not be related to fuel. That will still help our city.
That's right. The Lyon County fuel indexing tax, by the way, too, that those monies have to exclusively be used for roads only. They can't be used for salaries or giving the mayor and the city council a raise or taking some of it from here and putting it over there because we want to work on the parks. That fuel indexing tax, which is a different ballot measure in your ballot, is exclusively, there's very strict guidelines on it, can only be used for roads. And so that would be a good thing. I'm not anti that measure at all.
No, not at all. Right.
Newlands Drive, we often hear about big corporations, industrial players that come out and look at the park, and obviously we just opened up to Cunic, and there's been some other announcements of growth out in our Fernley Industrial Park. But from a recruiting standpoint, when the guys in the big suits come out into town and you're taking them on the down Newlands, it's not a real good recruiting asset.
No.
So
because the roads are just, they need lots of work. Well, Kelly, I want to thank you for your time, for coming down and discussing the Fernley Fair Share Committee and the interest in relation to pursuing legislation with this question. I myself will definitely agree that I'm going to vote yes on this, and I hope that everyone else that is listening to this will also join us in voting yes, so we can see what's going to happen at legislation with this, and hopefully continue to move forward. So thank you very much. Of course, this segment is also sponsored by Fernley News Network. Jan Francis joining us here today, Fernley News Network. You want to go ahead and give us a couple of plugs on your website real quick and tell us where everyone can find you?
Oh, yeah. You can find me at fernleynews.com. Also, this broadcast that you just did, I'm going to be putting it out in 2 formats. I will put it out in audio format, and we're going to make a video out of it with some pictures of what was going on here in the background that you didn't see.
Okay.
So,
thank you,
So
Jen.
it's going to be very informative for everybody. So
All right,
if
so
you know somebody that needs this information, just give them the links and let them listen.
Fernleynews.com, and you can always email any questions related to this podcast as well to radio@fernleynews.com. Okay, radio@fernleynews.com.
That's it.
And again, thank you very much. You can also like Fernley Fair Share Committee. Just look them up on Facebook, Fernley Fair Share Committee. Like them on Facebook. Ask them any direct questions. If you have any, thank you very much on this. We appreciate it. It's J. Fierce Rodriguez with Biggest Little Radio.